Instead, I'm going to monkey around and try to figure out how to make a flat-bottomed hole. We are now waiting on parts for the table saw. During transport, I had taken the table saw apart so I could move it because, you know, it's a one-man show sometimes. And in that process, I found a number of fasteners that were missing, enough to the point where I didn't actually feel quite safe putting it back together. So we've ordered a bunch of parts in order to get that put back together. So in the meantime, what we're going to do, this is actually a little desk, and currently I use it to hold the side bending machine. We're gonna take that off, and we're going to fit it with a temporary stand or a temporary top so that we can assemble our binding router machine from the StewMac. So I guess we'll kind of get started with that. Oh, it's windy as all crazy today, so you'll hear it in the background. So the first thing you need to do is read the directions. I know people hate it when I say that, but you know, most of us have got a little chair in our home that we sit on periodically for, I don't know, 3 to 60 minutes. Take this along with you and figure out what you got to do. So the first thing I got to do is I got to cut a 2 by 3 foot piece of wood, and since I happen to have a pallet of MDF sitting around, we're going to go ahead and use that as a temporary base. And as suggested, I went ahead and I applied a light coat of shellac to protect it, and then when it is sliding on the guitar holder base, which is also going to be shellac, then it should move fairly easily. I went ahead and I marked my hole positions. This is the mounting bracket, and then I used a 7/8 inch Forstner bit to countersink that so that I could install my T-nuts, and then drilled the center section out for that. Hammered those suckers in, and then went ahead and secured the mounting base to my piece of wood. Now you'll have to take this piece off of your trim router. This is a Bosch trim router, and then you'll just replace it with this carrier, with this router carrier piece. Make sure when you put your bit in that you leave enough room for the bit to extend out past that little nose, but also to be secured in there. Now, when I went to mount my trim router on there, no-go. I couldn't figure out what it was. So as I started looking, this illustration shows a decided lack of a knob. That knob right there. So I'm not a smart guy, but I can figure things out. You're supposed to remove this, even though nowhere in the instructions does it tell you you are supposed to remove this. Now, be sure and save that. Just go ahead and put it back in the case or somewhere where you can retrieve that, because you might need it for something later. Who knows? So once I was able to take that off, I reassembled the device, and now, almost as if by magic, it will travel down the amount that it's supposed to travel down, just like that. So now I'm going to show you this kind of in reverse. I'm going to take off the upper limit knob, and I'm just guessing at what direction that piece is supposed to go. I don't know. It doesn't say. I would hope that if it mattered, they would have written it in the instructions. It would have been nice if somewhere in those instructions it said, don't worry about the orientation of this piece, it doesn't matter. Because then you get some big Goomba like me trying to figure out
does it matter? So what I did is I put the upper one pointing up, the lower one pointing down. It's a guess. I just have no idea. Same thing with this lower limit stop. I just put it in like that. Is that the way it goes? I don't know. I don't have any direction. Same thing with the two pieces that connect that upper support. There's no guidance, so I just kind of guessed it. Is it the right way? Who knows? And so now we can get to trimming, right?
Okie doke, it's time for me to complain. First of all, there's a fly in here and that's irritating. Second of all, there is this illustration right there that is really the only indication of how this initially goes. This is the carrier for the guitar, and this is the carrier assembly, and there is a hex head bolt that comes up from underneath into this brass slotted nut. It just shows you this, and then, oh, let's see, where is this? Here it is. So we have that small initial illustration, and then we do some stuff, and then it comes to here. Insert each socket head cap screw, this, and washer through the bottom of the wooden body shape. And my phone rings. Are you kidding me? So this is somewhat irritating because if I look at this illustration here, this clearly has this screw coming up from the bottom, a washer on this surface, and then connected up to this. Now if I go to the instructions, it says each socket head cap screw and washer through the bottom of the wooden body shape. Okay, first of all, pick one. Second of all, it would have been nice if you would have given me the size of this screw so that I would know what size drill bit I need to make a countersink. Happens to be, looks like a 3/8 will give me enough room to slide that in there. The only 3/8 bit I have has got a tip on it. Would have been a lot nicer if they had used those flat topped angled hex bolts, so that way I could use a standard countersink and pull it up through there. Instead, I gotta monkey around and try to figure out how to make a flat bottomed hole that's 3/8 of an inch round. And then I have to decide whether or not I want to mount that washer on the bottom or the top, because apparently it's optional. So now I've found this brad point bit, and I'm able to make a mostly square bottom hole for this hex bolt and this washer to fit into. To make the hole for it to fit into, that's a 7/16 brad point bit. Then you insert the bolt and the washer through the carrier base and into that slotted brass nut up on top. All right, there we go. We're all big boys and girls here. You can do whatever you want to do. This is the way I ordered it. I just ordered the assembly. I got the Marauder separate because I was able to get a better deal on it. I supplied my own base. I supplied my own guitar holder base. So I got the part that holds this, the part that holds the guitar, the router bit and the bearing assemblies. I got all of that as a kit. So I supplied my own wood. And then this is a 7/32 drill bit. This is a 7/16 brad point bit. I elected to put the washer underneath as it said in the verbiage, not in the illustration, so that way I'm able to keep this from getting chewed up. Now, both of these are temporary. Once everything's up and going, this will be replaced by just regular cabinet grade plywood, so that way it'll be sturdy, because you can ding one of these and knock an edge of it off pretty well. So anyways, we've got this all put together. I'm going to take these apart, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a coat of shellac on this as well, just to kind of protect it while we're using it. The next episode in this, in theory, we're going to put a guitar on it and put some binding on, or at least route the channels to put some binding on. Anyways, I'm James from RattleCanBrokeStuffIsUs.com. Anyways, you guys have a good weekend. Cheers. Hey, if you like this episode of RattleCan Guitar Restorations, you might want to check this video out as well. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you'd like to help the channel grow, consider stepping over to our Patreon page and giving that a look. Y'all have a good weekend. Cheers.